In this video, we'll define local list decoding and mention a few applications. In fact, we already saw a local list decoding algorithm and an application in a previous video, but now we'll formalize this a little bit. Here's the formal definition of local list decoding. It's a bit of a mouthful, or at least a bit of a slideful, but we'll break it down with pictures in the next slide. Let's just go through it first, though. We say that a code C, subset of sigma to the n, is capital Q, P, L, locally list decodable if there is a randomized algorithm curly A that outputs a list of at most capital L other algorithms, curly B1, curly B2, up to curly BL, so that the following holds. First, let's establish just the type of each of these algorithms, curly BI. What do they take in and what do they spit out? So for each I between 1 and L, the input to the algorithm, curly BI, is an integer j between 1 and n, and curly BI has oracle access to a received word z in sigma to the n. Moreover, curly BI, given oracle access to z on the input j, is going to make at most capital Q queries to z. What it's going to output is a guess for the jth symbol of some code word. More precisely, and here's the second bullet point, for all z in sigma to the n, and for all code words c in curly c that are close to z in relative Hamming distance, in particular that are within relative Hamming distance p of z, there should be one of the bi's that is a good local decoder for that code word. More precisely, there exists an I between 1 and L, so that for all indices j between 1 and n, the probability that the ith algorithm b sub I, with oracle access to z on input j, outputs c sub j is at least 2/3. So there's a lot of quantifiers going on in this definition. Let's try to break this down with a picture. All right, here's a picture. We're trying to combine the definitions of a local decoding algorithm and a list decoding algorithm, so perhaps not surprisingly, our picture looks like the picture we had for a list decoding algorithm, plus the picture we had for a local decoding algorithm. Let's walk through this definition again, pointing at this picture. So here's our list decoding picture. If a code is list decodable, we know that for any vector z in sigma to the n, there's at most capital L code words within a Hamming ball of radius p of z. In this picture, let's say capital L is equal to 3, so there's only 3 code words, C1, C2, and C3, that are close to z. Our local decoding algorithm picture looked something like this, sort of this top bit here. Alice was sending a corrupted code word to Bob. Bob was interested in just one symbol of the underlying code word, and had to make some queries to what Alice has sent in order to figure it out. The difference now is that there's no correct code word that Alice meant to send. In this picture, there's 3 of them. So we can't just have one Bob, because what's he supposed to answer? So instead of having one Bob, we're going to have capital L Bobs, or in this picture, 3 Bobs. Each of these Bobs is going to correspond to a different correct code word. So Bob sub 1 corresponds to C1, Bob sub 2 corresponds to C2, and Bob sub 3 corresponds to C3. What that means is that it's Bob sub 1's job, when queried with the jth symbol, to return the jth symbol of C1. That is, on input j, Bob sub 1, in this definition known as curly b sub 1, is going to make some queries to z, some randomized queries, and Bob sub 1 is going to return a guess for the jth element of the first code word. Similarly, Bob sub 2 is responsible for the second code word. On input j, Bob sub 2 is going to want to recover this symbol. That is the jth symbol of the second code word. And similarly, Bob sub 2 will make some randomized queries to z. Maybe not the same as the queries that Bob sub 1 would have made. And is supposed to return this symbol with high probability. And similarly for Bob sub 3. So here, each of these Bobs correspond to the curly BIs in the algorithm. They each have oracle access to the received word z. And for each code word C, that is close to P, that is for each one of these, there exists a Bob associated to that code word. That's what this says here. And then it's that Bob's job to be a good local decoding algorithm for that code word. That's what this says. So hopefully that demystifies this algorithm a little bit, if it was mystifying to begin with. Okay, as we went through the definition of a locally list decodable code, you might have noticed that we have actually already seen a locally list decodable code. In particular, the Goldreich-Levin algorithm that we saw in the previous video had as a part of it a local list decoder for the Hadamard code. Here's another way of writing that algorithm in a way that looks a little bit more like the definition that we wrote on the previous slide. So here was the algorithm. We were given query access to some function g, and we wanted to recover all w's so that the encoding of w under the Hadamard code is within p of some received word g. That is, for each such w, we wanted it to be contained in the output list with probability at least 2/3. Our algorithm went as follows. We drew some random variables. We initialized a list to the empty set. We looped over a bunch of things, b1 through bl, these bit vectors. And then we did some stuff which was essentially this. If w is such that this advice, b1 through bl, is consistent with w, then there is some genie, curly b sub b1 through bl, such that curly b sub b1 through bl on input j was equal to the inner product of w and ej with high probability. In the previous video, we called this a genie, we just didn't name it curly b. So now let's name it curly b, and instead of calling it a genie, let's call it Bob. Then once we defined this, we took this genie, this Bob, and we called it on all j from 1 to m. That helped us recover each of the m bits of w, which helped us assemble w. Then we added w to the list. So what we see here is that this step in blue is precisely a local list decoder, as per the definition on the previous slide. So what we actually showed in the previous video is that the Hadamard code is Q, P, capital L locally list decodable, where P, the radius, can be anything strictly less than a half, Q, the query complexity, is polynomial in M, and L, the list size, is also polynomial in M. Pretty cool. So local list decodability might seem like a funny definition, but actually it has a lot of applications. In fact, we've already seen one, which is how we started this whole discussion a couple of videos ago. That application was learning Boolean functions that are sparse in the Fourier domain. Let's recall the setup we had from a couple of videos ago. We had some function, g, which mapped f2 to the m to plus minus 1. And we wrote g, in terms of its Fourier expansion, as the sum over all omega in f2 to the m of g hat of omega times this nice simple function minus 1 to the omega inner product x. We said that if the Fourier spectrum of g was spiky enough, that is, if most of these were small and a few were large, this is approximately equal to the sum over all omega in f2 to the m, so that the size of the omega Fourier coefficient, g hat of omega, is at least tau of the same thing. That is, we just throw away all of the small Fourier terms. Then we saw that approximating g from queries was essentially the same as finding all omega, so that the encoding of omega under the Hadamard code was pretty close to g in relative Hamming distance. That is, approximating g from queries was basically the same problem as finding a list of all of the omegas, so that the relative Hamming distance between little g, that's just the 0,1 version of capital G, and the encoding under the Hadamard code of omega was less than or equal to 1/2 minus tau over 2. And this is precisely what our local list decoder let us do. Notice for this application, we really needed both the local part and the list part. We needed the local part, since our desired running time, polynomial in M, is sublinear in 2 to the m, the length of C. We needed the list part because this radius that we were after had to go all the way up to 1/2. If we only did unique decoding, we'd only be able to go up to 1/4. So this is one application of local list decoding. In the context of learning Boolean functions, the algorithm that we saw earlier for locally list decoding the Hadamard code is called the Kushilevitz-Mansour algorithm. But this is just one application of local list decoding. There are several others. I'm going to erase this discussion here so that I can list a few more. Another application for local list decoding, and in particular for local list decoding the Hadamard code, comes from cryptography. When we introduced the algorithm for locally list decoding the Hadamard code in the previous video, I called it the Goldreich-Levin theorem. Actually, the application that Goldreich and Levin were originally interested in came from cryptography. To use some buzzwords, the Goldreich-Levin theorem says that one-way functions imply pseudorandom generators. It turns out that this statement follows from the local list decodability of the Hadamard code. I'm not going to talk about this any further in this video, and in particular, I'm not going to define what these mean, but check out the lecture notes if you're curious. Another application of local list decoding comes from complexity theory. So far, we've seen a local list decoding for the Hadamard code, and we've seen a few places that it's useful, but it's natural to ask if we can locally list decode other codes as well. One candidate that you might think of, based on our previous discussion of locally correctable codes, is Reed-Muller codes. It turns out that yes, indeed you can locally list decode Reed-Muller codes, and this has applications in complexity theory. In particular, Sudan, Trevisan, and Vadhan showed how to locally list decode a Reed-Muller code and use this for something called hardness amplification. That is, they can use this to transform a function that's hard to compute on average into a function that's hard to compute in the worst case. And this has some implications in complexity theory and pseudorandomness. Again, I'm not going to go into the details in these videos, but you can check out this paper if you're curious to learn more. Okay, so that about wraps up this video. To conclude, local list decoding might seem like a contrived notion if you just look at the definition, but actually it arises naturally in a wide variety of applications and gives rise to some really cool algorithms.